guys, what's going on? So today I'm doing a little bit of a weird thing and I'm catching up on my wrap-ups for the last 3 months pretty much. I've been in a little bit of a reading slump and also a video editing slump. I think I was just like in summer mode and I was just like into a few other things, which is totally okay. But I can officially say that I think my reading slump is over. To start this off, I think for my August wrap up, I'm going to kind of go over my June and July wrap up as well, because honestly, there aren't that many books. And then at the end of the video, I'm also going to do my September TBR. I'm sort of like in the middle of a bunch of books right now. Like August just really didn't wrap up really nice and clean, so I'm sort of in the middle of a bunch of books. So I'm gonna just like update you guys where I'm at with my reading and also give you a couple books that I am planning on diving into in the month of September, and then we'll go from there. We'll see how the month goes. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so in the month of June, I'm not really going to give any like reviews or whatever. I'm just gonna like quickly tell you what I read. Scarlet and Cress, and I actually have reviews to those books, and you can find the link right here if you're interested in watching. 1, 2, 3 by Elodie Nowodazkij, or I'm not really sure on how to pronounce her last name, but I really liked the book. It was my first reading of an art copy, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I do have a review up if you want to watch it. You can find that link here. Boneman's Daughters by Dekker. Ender's Game, and I was going to read Speaker for the Dead. Ender's Game was good. The ending left me intrigued enough that I wanted to jump into the next book, but Speaker for the Dead was just not doing it for me. So unfortunately, I just had to like hang that book up and put it on the shelf. The only book that I read in the month of June that I want to just touch on really briefly is called The Gargoyle by Davidson. This book, I actually really enjoyed it. I'm supposed to be doing a review with a couple of friends of mine on it. We just need to find the time to actually get together because I really want to discuss this book. It was a great read, very unique, very creative, and it was actually like a slow burn for me. I wasn't sure how I felt about it until the very end, actually. It was like I just needed the perspective of the entire novel to be able to really grasp what I needed to grasp out of it, and I ended up really loving it. It's about a man who is a survivor of a car crash, and he's actually like, his whole body is very heavily burned. He wakes up in the burn ward of a hospital. This lady walks into his hospital room one day and she claims that they have been lovers for centuries. And so that's sort of a mind-blowing concept, and he assumes she's like kind of a schizophrenic or like just has different mental issues. I definitely went into this book off of that description expecting a psychological thriller, but it definitely wasn't a psychological thriller, and I don't even know like what you would call it. It was just like this unique perspective on love and romance and just loyalty throughout different issues and different like mental it was just like a beautiful novel in a way that's just like mind-blowingly creative and just like out of the box and strange, which is like, if you guys know me as a reader, I love out of the box and strange, so I definitely loved this book. And there were definitely like lots of like quotable, inspirational thoughts about love. This author is so beyond lyrical. Like his words, I couldn't drink them in fast enough. They were just so good. The way like his prose and the way he arranges his sentences and the words he comes up with to describe just like ordinary things. He is a beautiful writer, very lyrical, very unique, very creative, and I definitely enjoyed this read in the month of June. The very first book that I need to talk about in my July reading list is called Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. I'm so sorry if I butchered that name. I don't even know what to say about this book. It was just like a beautiful, unique, mind-blowing experience. It has changed the way that I view reading in general. This book was just like the perfect mashup of art and literature. They just met in this like perfect and beautiful place. This author just like understood how to artfully showcase what he was trying to say in a literary sense, and it was just like, I've never experienced anything like it. I don't even really want to tell you guys what it was about. Like, if you trust me as a book reviewer, just trust me and go pick up this book and read it, because I feel like anything I could possibly tell you is a spoiler. It was like from start to finish, finding out everything in this book was a journey. It was an experience. everything about it. Every word, every moment was just like, it was perfection. This book is absolutely magic on paper, and I give it a very, very easy, like 5 out of 5 stars. If I could give it more stars than that, I would. It's like easily probably my favorite book in the universe. I could just like gush about it all day, and I know like I haven't described what it's about at all, but like you guys, trust me, please just go pick up this book and tell me what you think of it, because it's just like so good. The book for my June TBR that I didn't get around to until July, actually, whoopsies, was written and read by Anne Bishop, and I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I wasn't super in love with it. I think urban fantasy is definitely a hit and miss for me. I'm not sure if it was because of the content of the book or just the fact that I was in a reading slump that it just like wasn't hitting home for me. I wasn't really emotionally connected to any of the characters like Meg and Simon. I just wasn't like feeling them. I just wasn't really loving any of the characters or the circumstances surrounding them. I didn't hate it. It wasn't like a total like write-off. But it just wasn't my favorite book. And the only character that I really was intrigued with was Tess. There was a lot of suspense surrounding her, and I think Anne Bishop did a really good job building up that suspense and that just like, what is this lady? Like, what is she? And then when the secret kind of finally came out, it was like, whoa, like that's huge. That's really cool, and it's really intriguing. This book is about a girl named Meg. She is a Cassandra Sangue, which means she is a blood prophetess, which means that when she draws, like when her own blood is spilled, she has visions. She is actually being held captive at this place that basically sells these girls' blood, like sells these girls' visions to people who are willing to pay enough. And she escapes. She escapes and ends up in this territory that is like sectioned off only for like shapeshifters and these people who are like the original people of Earth before humans came along. She ends up here and hiding there from the people who are trying to track her down and take her back to this owner. The cutting content or the cutting storyline, I just don't know how I feel about that. I don't really like the idea of romanticizing cutting. I was okay with it in the first half of the book because she, like, it was looking at it from the perspective that she was abused. Like, she was being held and forced to do this to herself, and therefore it was like not by choice that she was doing it. So I was okay with it, but then it started to develop, like, as she went along in her story, she started to feel like she had to cut to relieve these feelings, and she just like she got like ecstasy from cutting, and I just wasn't into that. So I think I was a little bit uncomfortable with the content in some ways, and so yeah, overall I give this book a 3 out of 5 because I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it. The book that I was most pumped to finish in the month of August was A Dance with Dragons by George R.R. Martin, and this is the 5th book of the Song of Ice and Fire series, better known as the Game of Thrones series. It was sort of a disappointment, to be honest. Like, I really had to slog through this one. It was a bit of a tough read, and again, I don't know if that's because I was in a reading slump and I just really wasn't feeling it, or because the content was actually just pretty boring. Like, it was pretty informational. I feel like not a lot happened. Toward the end of the book, things started to wrap up and you kind of saw how it was all fitting together, but on an entire book basis, considering this book is 1,200 pages long, like, it is a huge book, not a lot happened. There was this one character in particular in this book that was introduced, and his entire storyline was just a waste of time. Like, he basically served one purpose, and I'm sort of upset about it because I felt like I struggled to get through his chapters. They weren't super interesting. I wasn't super into them, but I stuck it out, and it was all for naught, almost. Like, he served one purpose and one purpose only, so I almost feel like his entire storyline was a waste of time. I was in series burnout, hardcore. I was ready to be done. I love the Song of Ice and Fire series, but I've been reading it, like, I read the 5 books straight through. I've been reading it for the past, like, year or so. I was just, like, ready for this series to be over with, and I think that might have been a big contributor to the fact that I was just like, series burnout, I am not into this. I was ready for it to be done. I'm still going to be excited when George R.R. Martin gets around to releasing the next 2 books, whenever that will be. I'm just glad they're not out yet because I need a break. So I give this book a 3 out of 5 stars. And then another book that I had been reading for a while now, for some reason, it was just like on my Kindle, I sort of always forgot to pick it up and read it, was The Martian by Andy Weir. I finally powered through it and finished it, and I absolutely love it. It's a great book, and I'm super excited for the movie to come out. This book is about a man that goes like on a mission to Mars with a crew, and they get caught in like a sandstorm, and it's so bad that they actually have to turn around and come back home. Like they have to ditch the mission, get back in the spaceship, and just like bust it out of there. They're running back to the ship, and he actually ends up getting hit by some flying debris, and they think he's dead, so they leave him, but he's not dead, and he's trapped on Mars. So this is like the story of how a man survives on Mars. He is an engineer botanist, and so he has to use those skills to survive for a very, very long, extended period of time. And this book is like mind-blowing. Like, I don't read a whole lot of science fiction, but this one was like intense and incredible, and I totally did not understand what was happening the majority of the time. Like the science was like way over my head, but it was delivered in a way that wasn't like textbooky either. Like I didn't feel like I was reading a textbook. It was delivered with a sense of humor, just laid back, and just you felt like you were drawn into the story with all this knowledge, as opposed to feeling like the author was just trying to make you feel like he knew what he was talking about. So I really like the way Andy Weir developed this story. I really liked the way it was executed, and it like, even though I didn't understand it all, it wasn't pretentious. If you like science fiction, you haven't read this book yet, pick it up. Worth the read for sure, hands down. So I give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I picked up in August was one that's been sitting on my shelf staring at me for a few months. It released a couple months ago, and it was all over YouTube for that first month. Everybody was like loving it, obsessed with it, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This is a repeating theme here with me. I'm not sure if it was because I was in a reading slump, or if maybe because there was so much hype surrounding it that I was expecting like this mind-blowing book, and I was let down a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't love it. I was not passionate about this story. This book is about a girl named Farah. She is a huntress, and she accidentally, on purpose, ends up killing this fairy who's like in wolf form, and the punishment for that is death. But this like high fairy comes to like collect the payment and basically kill her, but he decides that no, instead you can either die or you can come live with me in Prithian forever. And there's like war and mystery and romance and intrigue going on, and so it is a good concept for a book, but for some reason, again, I just like wasn't emotionally connecting with the characters. I was very intrigued by Sarah J. Maas's world building. That was really well done. Like the Prithian sounds absolutely like beautiful, and she did a great job at describing it. Like I felt like I could like picture exactly what she was talking about. So Sarah J. Maas's world building is wonderful. 3/4 of the way in, I did finally really start to get into it, like where she addressed the queen and like everything like that. I started getting into it there. I started being like emotionally involved and started really enjoying what I was reading. So I'm definitely planning on picking up the next book. So I'm gonna give this one a 3.5 to 4 out of 5 stars. And the final book that I read in June, July, August was another one that has been staring at me on my shelf for a couple months. I remember when it came out, everybody was like all about it. That is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. This was such a beautiful, beautiful book. It's about this guy named Theodore Finch, who he's like obsessed with death. Like he's clearly suicidal. The book opens where he's like on the bell tower at school, kind of like looking down, contemplating like what would happen if I jumped. And this girl named Violet ends up appearing at the top of the bell tower as well, and he talks her out of it. Violet was up there because she had a sister that died in a fiery car crash like a few years ago, and she hasn't been able to get over it, and so she was up there kind of contemplating the same thing. And so it's just this like beautiful, sad, tragic, unique story about these two kids that are struggling in life, but find a connection that really has nothing to do with death. I think that was my favorite part of the book, was they were able to provide real legit beauty for each other, completely separate from their circumstances. Like the circumstances in their romance and like their friendship and what they did in it was just like unique and creative, and it just inspires you to live life and live life to the fullest. And that's definitely how I was feeling after I read this book. I was like, I need to do more creative things. I need to go out there and see the world and experience things and appreciate the little things. It was heart-wrenching, and I'm still processing it, and it's still like these characters will definitely stick with me for a very long time. So if you are looking for like an easy read, but one that will emotionally grab you, this is the book for you. This is the book that I know for sure brought me out of my reading slump, because I was like, I felt like I had a summer full of books that were just like I wasn't emotionally connecting to, and it just was like there was like some sort of wall there. This is the book that did it for me. Easy 5 out of 5 stars for this. Rereadable. Go read it right now. Do it. I quickly just want to update you guys on what I'm currently reading. Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell, and this was on my June TBR. Never got around to it until like late July, I think, but it is a huge book. I want to keep reading just to see how it's all going to tie together under one theme, or like one contextual book, and not just be like a huge life story of this woman named Scarlet O'Hara. Like I need to see how this all fits in together and why it's all important, and I'm not quite there yet. So I am going to finish this book though, hopefully this month, crossing my fingers. September, this is the month I'm gonna finish you, I swear. The next book I'm in the middle of reading is called The Bride Collector by Ted Dekker. In June, I read Boneman's Daughters, which was the start of this series by Ted Dekker that's just basically about like different serial killers. I'm enjoying this so far, definitely gonna be finishing it, hopefully like within a week or so. The third book that I'm currently reading is The Princess Bride by William Goldman, and me and my boyfriend are reading this together, and we are past part 1. So funny story with this, we started it, and we knew nothing about The Princess Bride apparently. Like, we suck. So we skipped over the intro thinking that it wasn't important, and we started with part 1, The Bride, and then halfway through that book we realized that, I think the intro was actually part of the story. So we backtracked and read the intro, and then forward tracked back to where we were. What a gong show. So basically we suck is what I'm trying to say, but we're good now. The story is awesome. I'm loving it so far. William Goldman's humor is like right up my alley, like the sarcasm and the wit, it's great. Overall, this is a good experience so far. So we are definitely going to finish this soon. I'm going to make sure that that happens. On audiobook right now, I'm listening to The Alchemist, and I am liking that a lot too. I think I'm almost done, and I'm actually really enjoying it. I've seen mixed reviews on The Alchemist, like some people just think it's too like self-helpy, but I actually really like it. Dreams and aspirations are definitely a topic that I'm highly like motivated and inspired by, and so I'm really enjoying that read so far. And then on my Kindle right now, I am reading The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. He's like a theology philosophy writer. The Screwtape Letters are basically like a series of letters that are written between two like demons, and they're basically discussing how to best retain their hold on the human beings that they have dominion over. So it's a very interesting read. And then so for the books that I am gonna throw real quick on my TBR this month after I'm done the books that I'm currently reading. The first one is funny because in hindsight, I really should have put this on my summer reading list. It would have been just like perfect to read while I was in Paris or before, but that is Anna and the French Kiss. This book has been staring me in the face on my bookshelf for months now. I've been just like really ready to just like dive into like a cute contemporary romance, and I've heard that Stephanie Perkins is just like the way to go. Even just the color, it's been sitting there on my shelf being like, look at that bright, lovely pink book. I really want to read it. The next book that I'm really wanting to read, this one got bumped up to the top of my TBR quite fast just because the concept intrigues me and the cover is beautiful. It's called The Memory Painter by Gwendolyn Womack, and this one definitely has some time travel elements to it, which I'm definitely excited to read about. And like, it sounds like it's about this man named Brian Pierce, who's like a famous artist, and he starts to like develop like he starts to have these dreams that are like unusually vivid, and he like paints them out, and it starts to seem like he's painting other people's memories. And so like that is enough to catch hold of me. Like, that sounds super intriguing, and so I just want to jump right into this one, so I'm throwing it on my September list, even though There have been a lot of books on my shelf that have been sitting there for longer than this one, but that is fine. I want to read this one. And the last book that I'm throwing on my September TBR is one that I've already read more than once, but I just purchased it and added it to my shelf, so I need to read it again. It's called Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers, and I don't know if you guys have ever read this book, but if not, you need to go read it right now. It's about this man named Michael Hosea who lives in the 1850s, and he's a farmer, and one day he like is passing a brothel, like just on his way to sell vegetables or whatever, and he sees this woman, this prostitute who works at the brothel named Angel, and he falls in love with her, and not in like a lust way, but like he feels that God is telling him to marry this woman. She's never known a man who actually like loves her, and she has no concept of love whatsoever. And so this book is absolutely like mind-blowingly, like I'm almost in tears thinking about it, just like a journey of learning what love is. And every person in the entire world should read this book. And so this is going on my September TBR, even though I've already read it twice, even though there's other books I really should be getting to, I am reading this again, and I would highly recommend it to like anyone. I love this book so much. Go read it right now. Trust me, seriously, so good. All right, so that is it for my my reading list for the last 3 months and my September TBR. I hope you guys are having a wonderful September so far. Let me know what you're planning on reading this month, and let's talk about the books that I like that you're reading and what I'm reading. Throw me a comment down below, give me a shout out on Twitter. I'll put all my information below for you. Other than that, I hope you guys are having a solid day. We will see you next time. Bye.